I know Jorge is a friend of yours, but now you're starting to slag him a little bit. You call him a journeyman. I mean, the journeyman is still kind of something you wouldn't want to call somebody who's a friend of yours. Am I wrong on that?
I mean, there's nothing in my contract that says I have to be nice, and there's nothing in our friendship that says I need to say nice words all the time.
Knowing that he'd take to the internet or online to bash me when I had never bashed him, and he just took to bashing it. If you would sell out our friendship like that so quick, we never had a friendship.
Whoever they put in front of me, that's what gets taken down.
You're gonna see a Savage come out that you never seen.
I'm gonna kick his ass.
I'm gonna take him down to deep waters. I'm gonna take him down, and I'm gonna finish him.
I run the show. You listen to me. When I say I'm gonna kick your fucking ass, I'll kick your fucking ass.
There's nowhere to run, and there's nowhere to hide. I'm coming for you. You're next!
Colby Covington versus Jorge Masvidal, the ultimate fight breakdown. The classic storyline of friends turned enemies, the grudge match everyone has been waiting for is finally going to take place at UFC 272 in the main event. Colby Chaos Covington faces the BMF Jorge Gamebred Masvidal. The two welterweight stars trained together at ATT, and ever since their falling out, they've been heading on a collision course. This is the second ever non-title main event not involving Conor McGregor, and Masvidal was also involved in the first one against Nate Diaz, which just proves his star power and how much faith Dana has in him selling pay-per-views. This is definitely a matchup to look forward to, and we here at Athlete Central are here to tell you everything you need to know about it in this ultimate fight breakdown. Form. Let's begin with the BMF Jorge Masvidal, who after being cursed with split decision losses his entire UFC career, went away and worked on himself after a loss to Wonderboy in 2017. His quote-unquote resurrection took place in 2019, where he had one of the best years any MMA fighter has had in recent memory. Fun fact, in his hiatus from the sport in 2018, Masvidal competed in the Exaltation reality show, and he actually credits the show with his resurgence. Talking about it in this clip.
And hearing they calling me Street Jesus. There is a real Jesus, and when he baptized you, you go to heaven. Street Jesus, if you get baptized, you know where you go, right?
The fact that he wasn't allowed to have a phone, TV, or any contact with the outside world made him reflect on his fighting career and make a change in the way he fights. He started it off against Darren Till, who was still considered a hot prospect since his only loss came in a title shot against Tyron Woodley. Crazy how far both athletes have fallen off since that fight. Jorge was a substantial plus 180 underdog in that fight, and it looked like the bookmakers were going to be proven right in the first round, as Till dropped Gamebred with a perfectly placed punch, and it looked like the end was near for Masvidal. He bounced back in the second round though, and landed a beautiful combination, knocking the gorilla out cold. Following the fight, Jorge had a backstage altercation with co-main event winner Leon Edwards and gave him the infamous 3-piece and a soda, punching him after his interview was interrupted by the Brit. This catapulted his start to a whole new level, leading to a matchup with the newly signed Ben Askren, who was coming off a questionable win over Robbie Lawler. After a bunch of shit talking, Masvidal delivered an iconic knockout that is going to be played until the end of time, landing a flying knee and 2 hammer fists to follow that up in a mere 5 seconds, the fastest KO in UFC history. He then coined the term super necessary when the reporter asked him whether the follow-up shots were uncalled for.
The punches weren't really necessary, maybe.
They were super necessary.
Why were they necessary?
What do you mean, why were they not necessary?
This victory really moved Masvidal to superstardom. That clip must have been played 1,000 times on UFC promos, which earned the Cuban a mega fight against Nate Diaz for the BMF belt, headlining UFC 244. The fight lasted 3 rounds, with Masvidal absolutely dominating the Stockton gangster from bell to bell. At the end of the 3rd round, the doctor examined Diaz's cuts and called for the fight to be stopped. With the BMF belt strapped around him and a bona fide superstar status, Masvidal was rightly calling for a title shot against Kamaru Usman, but he also wanted a pay raise as the UFC was offering him less money for the title fight than for the Nate Diaz fight. The UFC went for Gilbert Burns instead, as he was willing to accept a smaller paycheck, but he was forced to pull out of the fight, and Masvidal came in to save the day on 6 days' notice, getting the money he wanted because of the UFC's desperation to save the main event. Despite some success in the first round, Usman went on to dominate the rest of the fight, using his wrestling to his advantage and getting the unanimous decision victory. However, despite the wrestling masterclass, questions still lingered because Masvidal took the fight on short notice. This led to a rematch at UFC 261, since the first fight was lucrative for both fighters and the UFC. This time's Jorge loss was way more devastating. After losing the first round, Usman gave Jorge the first KO loss of his career, landing a clean right cross that knocked Masvidal out cold. Garbrandt is looking to restore his name in this fight against arch-nemesis Colby Covington. Speaking of Colby, his last 5 fights also consist of 3 victories and 2 losses to the champ Kamaru Usman. Colby captured the interim title in 2018, beating RDA in a unanimous decision victory. He was supposed to fight Woodley next. However, since negotiations stalled and Colby wanted to get a surgery, Dana stripped him of the title and gave Darren Till the title shot. Colby got back in the company's good books by taking a short notice fight with Robbie Lawler, where he absolutely decimated the former champion, mixing in takedowns and outstriking him in the stand-up, landing an absurd amount of shots on the feet. Colby's volume is seriously ridiculous. At UFC 245, the UFC finally gave him a title shot against new champion Kamaru Usman. Colby gave the Nigerian Nightmare the most trouble he's ever had in the UFC, with most people scoring the fight 2-2 going into the 5th, with some even having Colby up 3-1. The fight was not the wrestling clinic everyone expected, with the fighters giving the fans a stand-up war, which turned into a real slugfest and made Dana call the fight one of the best title fights of all time. Usman got the TKO victory late in the 5th round, and Colby may have gotten a broken jaw from the fight, but he could walk away with his head held high. Following the loss, the UFC finally matched him up against longtime foe Tyron Woodley. Colby dominated the first 4 rounds, proving that his wrestling is superior, and the fight was stopped in the 5th round after T. Woods suffered a broken rib. His most recent fight was the rematch with Kamaru Usman. This time the fight went the distance. Yet again, this fight was extremely competitive. Usman clearly won the first 2 rounds, with the second one arguably being a 10-8 round. But there's a case to be made that Colby won rounds 3, 4, and 5. But rounds 3 and 5 were very close and could go either way. Regardless, Colby is Usman's toughest fight in the division, and this high-profile Masvidal fight can put him right back into the title picture. 2 more wins, and there's a case to be made for a trilogy fight with the champion. Attributes. Colby is 33 years old, in the prime of his career, while Jorge is a bit older at 37, and if we look at other fighters his age, he will probably start declining soon, so he has to make the most of his last few years in the game. When it comes to anthropometry, both fighters are 5'11" tall and relatively small for the weight class. If a 165 weight class opened, they would definitely make the weight. Masvidal has a slight 2-inch edge in reach. Striking. This is a classic striker versus grappler matchup, so we fully expect Jorge to have an advantage in the striking department. Their significant strikes land per minute are quite close. Jorge lands 4.22 per minute compared to Colby's 4.14. This really highlights Colby's volume in the stand-up, as despite wrestling in most of his fights, he's still able to land this many significant strikes. Garbrandt is clear of him when it comes to accuracy though, topping Colby's 38% by 10%, an indicator that he is a way more technical striker. When it comes to striking defense, it's a similar story. Their significant strikes absorbed per minute are quite close. 3.09 for Colby and a bit less for Masvidal at 3.01. And Jorge has a 65% defense rate, 10% higher than Colby's 55%. When it comes to power, there isn't even a question. Colby has a mere 2 KO or TKO wins compared to Masvidal's 16. This is where his nickname Pillow Fist comes from, as he isn't able to generate a lot of power behind his punches. His 2 wins came from ground and pound and Woodley's rib injury. On the feet, his opponents aren't in danger of getting knocked out. Grappling. We fully expect Colby to beat out Masvidal in the grappling department. Let's see if the statistics say the same story. Colby lands a whopping 4.10 takedowns per 15 minutes, head and shoulders above Masvidal's 1.54. Surprisingly though, Masvidal has a higher accuracy, sitting at 59% compared to Colby's 46%. He doesn't attempt many takedowns, but when he does, he tends to be successful. When it comes to takedown defense, they are pretty even. Jorge is at 75% and Colby is 72%. Jorge is more used to fighters trying takedowns, and not many want to go to the ground with a wrestler like Covington. Neither fighter attempts many submissions. Masvidal attempts 0.3 per 15 minutes and Covington a measly 0.1. In terms of submission finishes, Colby used his BJJ way more before the UFC, securing 6 career wins via submission compared to Jorge's 2. It's safe to say that Covington is better than Masvidal on the ground. Donald Trump will be proud. Prediction. There are are two main stories to this fight. Either Masvidal is able to stuff Colby's takedowns and win on the feet, or Colby implements his game plan and controls Jorge on the ground using his grade A wrestling. In the first scenario, Colby has shown in his fights with Usman and Robbie Lawler that he is actually able to keep up on the feet, albeit not with great accuracy or power. His main weapon is volume. Masvidal is way more technical in the stand-up, and the stats back that up. He has power and also the ability to outstrike Colby with ease. If this was another fight, his chin getting tested would be a question after the KO loss to Usman, but as mentioned, Colby doesn't really have that one-punch KO power, so Jorge will most likely not have to worry about that. In the second scenario, Colby would get to dominate Masvidal on the ground. His cardio is insane. That's how he's able to sustain that pressure style through 25 minutes, landing takedown after takedown, even if his opponent is able to get up. If Jorge can't prevent the takedowns, he's in for a long night. The bookmakers favor this scenario, pitting Colby as a strong -330 favorite, with Jorge being at +265. Thank you guys so much for watching today's video. Who would you guys put your money on? Drop your fight predictions in the comments below, and make sure to like and subscribe to never miss an Athlete Central video. Until next time.